I'm kind of interested in stories that people have of coming close to or being adjacent mortality or death. I know that you were in this city for 9/11, which, I mean, I don't know what that would have been like. But do you want to talk about it a bit?
Sure. I live then and now 4 blocks from ground zero. And I was home when all this happened that morning. When the North Tower was on fire, people were all just standing out there looking at it, saying, "Oh, this is a tragedy. Oh my gosh, what is this? It's a tragedy." Feels sad for the people. And then the second tower was hit. In that instant, everyone did the calculation that this has to be on purpose. You don't have 2 random plane crashes into the Twin Towers within 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's not an accident.
It's not an accident.
Yeah.
And so instantly everyone said, "Oh my gosh, it's a terrorist attack." And I'm there. I had my camcorder at the time. There were no smartphones yet. And so what was particularly terrifying, I don't know if that's the right word, disturbing is the better word, was, I'm watching, both buildings are on fire now, and there's like shards of metal falling down and bits and pieces of office furniture. And then you'd see something falling differently from other things. So, what is that? Oh my gosh, that's a human body. Human bodies fall differently from other things that occupy office spaces. By the way, the Twin Towers, for those who had never visited New York, are an acre of office space per floor times 107 floors times 2 buildings. And if you're at the top of the building, the sun sets 2 minutes later for you than it does for someone at the bottom. Which, by the way, is evidence that Earth is round. in case you needed more evidence of this.
I don't, but some of our viewers may.
So I think the starkness of that, it's one thing to know that people died in an airplane that you don't even see anymore and they're immolated, whatever, but to watch a body fall, who in the instant it's falling, while it's falling, it's surely alive, and seconds later, it's going to be 100% dead. And I think the imminence of death in situations such as that makes it that much more disturbing. And so everyone, we're all there. People, you hear the crowds reacting upon realizing what we're witnessing. And I wrote a letter the next morning reflecting on that, on my experiences that day. I emailed it to my coworkers and to family. At the time, there were no blogs or anything. There was no social media. So I don't know, should I be surprised? It was early in this exercise where my email had been sent to everybody's email lists. So I was getting responses from people all around the world in response to this letter that I wrote. And it was just called The Horror. Sort of Joseph Campbell adjacent sentiment there. I was changed after that in 2 ways. First, I was a bit shell-shocked in the following way. And by the way, I had it mild compared to other people, so I'm not here to seek sympathy or even empathy. I'm just saying as a matter of fact. That entire morning, all I heard were sirens. From the first impact through the collapse of the second building. Sirens. So the sirens became the acoustic wallpaper of the morning. That was the native sound of that day, were sirens. And then when the buildings collapsed, there was silence. And that was an eerie silence, especially when the dust cloud billowed forth. It consumed my window. We live in an old building with sash windows. They're not sealed. And so the dust came through. Visibility was about a centimeter out the window. That's how dark the dust was and how thick it was. Something that no one described, and I don't know because they were maybe distracted by other elements of that morning. There was countless millions of sheets of office paper flowing with the billowing dust. And so the paper enabled you to see the path of the air as it billowed, because the paper would take the shape of the flow of air. And that's back, before we really stored much on a computer. People had file cabinets. And just imagine casting thousands of file cabinets into the air in this explosion. So, this was an assault, of course, not only on America, on New York City. It was an assault on my backyard. And I was emotionally shaken in the following way. As a geek kid, my emotions were things I had tamed. I was never one to slam the door or hang up no, it's an emotion. Who cares? What I care about is objective realities. Didn't mean I didn't have emotions. It meant the emotions never consumed me.
Mm.
I could go to a Broadway musical, a tender moment, and I'll tear up. Here's what happened. After that day, after that morning, whatever was the membrane, the mind membrane that separated my emotions from my rational thought, it no longer existed. It somehow dissolved away. And there was cross contact between my emotions and my rational brain. So that for a year after that, I wouldn't just see and experience the world around me. I would feel it as never before.
In what way?
Emotions. I'd see people, I would read their face, and I said, why is that person so sad? I want to go over and find out. I want to help them. They're sad. Oh, that person's happy. I wonder what joke they're laughing. It was as though some switch got turned on, and every other human being was this sack of emotions that I was experiencing along with them. Someone later said, I became an empath. I guess that's the noun of empathetic. I became an empath. And I'm almost sad to say that my writing greatly improved.
Why does that make you sad to say?
Because it took a tragedy to improve my writing. And I wasn't looking for that. That's a consequence of it. It was a tragedy. My writing became much richer with what I was describing and how I would get you to feel when I was writing the sentence. I wasn't just composing a wiki page, not that wiki existed back then, but you know what I mean. It's not just informational. I want to reach into your soul and fold that into what I'm communicating on the page. And then I realized, if you look at the Nobel Prizes for literature, many of them, if not most, have gone to people who've experienced some kind of stress or trauma in their lives.
I was about to say, yeah. And also, isn't there in a way that, if there's anything that you can draw positively out of such a horrible event, that's not unfortunate.
A silver lining to the, yeah. But here's what else was true. For about a year, anytime I heard a siren, I would kind of wince a little.
I bet.
Because it took me right back to that moment. That's the shell-shocked bit of this. I would, it would take about a year and a half for that, because sirens happen all the time in New York.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just that it was constant. That's what was different, and that imprinted me.
Yeah.
Also, when leaving, because they evacuated Lower Manhattan, I collected my kids. I had a 9-month-old son and my daughter, who at the time, it was her Tuesday. It was her second day of school ever. She was like in kindergarten, okay? And her school is like right near ground zero. So that was a whole thing. How do you get kids and contact parents and everything? Point is, the subways were not running. And we were going to go north into Westchester, where my parents lived at the time. And so I'm pushing the stroller with my son, and I'm walking to far enough north to get the train to get me into Westchester, which is Metro North for locals. And that's a multi-mile walk from where I am. And a lot of that walk was along Park Avenue, and I'm carrying my daughter. She's 5, so how much does she weigh? But I'm carrying her for miles. And for about a year after that, every time I crossed Park Avenue, my muscles tinged, remembering that I was carrying her. So it's like a muscle memory of that trauma. I'm certainly strong enough to do it, so that wasn't the issue. It was, I felt it, and it's associated with that morning. And so, once again, like I said, I could still function. I was not, wrapped in a bag in the corner. And that's more than I can say for many people. We had neighbors who had left the city.
Yeah.
They moved out, never saw them again. But we stayed. So 3,000 people died that morning. And
any one of your family could have been one of them.
that's true. And it's people in all walks of life, professions, ages, nationalities, religions. But I have my slightly unorthodox view on this is, I think philosophers call it, I'm a utilitarian, I think is what I would be called in this context. Utilitarian just kind of looks at the numbers. Less emotion, just what are the numbers? And I saw our reaction as a nation to those attacks, amassing our forces and our military and the $1 trillion of military budget that would be brought to bear on this geopolitical incident. And I knew that every day, 100 people die in car accidents in the United States. About 100, plus or minus. So that a month later, by October 11th, as many people died on the highways and in the streets of New York from car accidents as had died in the 3 plane crashes of those terrorist attacks. And I looked at that and I said, do we really care about saving lives? It's hard to have pre-saved the lives of the people in those planes because we didn't even picture that as a terrorist motive. But we've got automobiles. We can make them safer, roads safer, conditions, whatever. And that 3,000 people, because 100 people a day times 30 days is 3,000, every month is another 3,000 people. So we lose 35 to 40,000 people a year. That's in a year, slightly less than the total number of servicemen who died in Vietnam. So as a utilitarian, I think I'm using that word correctly.
It's extremely fucking utilitarian.
Yes. And it's almost callous.
Yeah, I'm never going to give you a trolley problem. I'll put
No, not the trolley problem. You will know in advance where we're going to land on the trolley problem. So I just I had those thoughts and I didn't know who to bring them to because when people are angry and you've established an enemy, you'll just do it. I can tell you this, that New York City was a friendlier city after September 11th. People were helping each other. People, different creeds, different colors, different socioeconomic classes. And I think people felt their mortality. When mortality is staring you in the face, you don't have time for hate. I don't think. I think you want to love more than you want to hate.